What is going on, Dragon Ball fans? Welcome back to another Dragon Ball fan manga review, where today we're going to be reviewing the fan manga entitled Dragon Ball Multiverse, which of course is a fan manga set within its own timeline involving characters from both Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. But the overall concept of Dragon Ball Multiverse involves fighters from different quadrants and parallel worlds in which come together for this grand multiverse battle to determine which universe and team is superior than the rest. And for many years now, I've been reviewing Dragon Ball fan concepts and mangas, so today we're going to be diving further into this manga chapter to further understand the gravity and nature of Dragon Ball Multiverse. And with that, we kick it off with Dragon Ball Multiverse manga chapter number 16, which happens to be one of my favorite Dragon Ball Multiverse chapters in the entire series, as it depicts perfect Cell and Super Saiyan 2 Gohan in a what-if scenario. Now it goes as follows: the Earth, the 26th of May, age 767. The story happened in universe number 17, and we see how Gohan and Cell are having their beam struggle while they're commencing the Kamehamehas, and we see how Goku says, "Hang on, Gohan, you didn't release all of your power yet." And we see how Gohan says, I can't go any further." So it looks like in this story, Gohan actually loses, as Goku says, "No, Gohan," with Gohan having to say, "Sorry, Dad, I can't go on. He's too strong for me," with Cell having to say, "Farewell, son Gohan. Say hello to your father for me." So in an instance like this, it looks like Cell overtook Gohan, and we see Gohan go out in a blaze of glory. There's a massive beam that overtakes him, and that's the end of Gohan, with a massive crater left in the middle of nowhere, and everyone else is ruined by this. Tenshinhan, Krillin, Yamcha, and Piccolo, with Piccolo having to say, "No, it's over," and Cell having to say, "I'm very tired, but now this may be your last chance." And the only person functional here is Vegeta, as we see Vegeta says he's toying with us. He transforms into a Super Saiyan as he tries to commence with the final flash, and even Krillin says, "We have to get out of here, stay passive." And as Vegeta is trying to go on ahead and unleash the final flash, Tenshinhan cocks for the tri-beam attack, as we see Yamcha and Krillin attempt to do a Kamehameha wave, as even Piccolo is thinking about Gohan. So this is the Z Fighter's last attempt in trying to penetrate Cell's body and trying to take Cell down, because Cell is tired after everything he's done. And what's really cool about this is Vegeta unleashes the final flash, Piccolo unleashes the special beam cannon, Krillin and Yamcha unleash the Kamehameha, as Tenshinhan unleashes the tri-beam, and to Cell's surprise, he sees this heading right for him, and he uses the instant transmission to move out the way. So the first person he goes behind is in fact Vegeta. He teleports right behind Vegeta, he puts his hand right behind him, and he blows a hole through his body. So Vegeta is the first one to go down. Keep in mind, this is after Cell came back from the planetary explosion on King Kai's world, so he came back, he killed Gohan, and now Vegeta is up next, and now he automatically moves towards the others as he teleports behind Piccolo, and we see how he's so fast. He says, "Who wants to be next?" So he moves behind Piccolo, and to Piccolo's shock, he slices Piccolo in half. And Tien says he doesn't have any pity, he'll just finish us off one by one, with Yamcha having to say it's horrible. And while Piccolo's on the ground, Cell says goodbye Piccolo. He sticks his hand out, but we see how Krillin throws the Destructo Disc in Cell's direction, in which Cell catches it and he throws it right back, but instead of throwing it towards Krillin's direction, he throws it in Tien's direction and saying, "You forgot something," and which slices Tien in two. This is very graphic, by the way. And just as that happens, we see how Yamcha is beginning to get very frustrated. He charges in Cell's direction, and Cell later on slaughters Yamcha next, right after Tien. So there's no hope for anybody here. Krillin attempts to actually unleash massive amounts of Ki Blast, but of course Cell sees this. He teleports right behind Krillin. He grabs Krillin by the shirt, and they begin to fly off. Now you might be wondering, why are they flying off? Why doesn't Cell just kill him right then and there? Instead, what Cell does is he takes him out into space, and he says, "Haha, so long," and he throws Krillin out into deep space. Now keep in mind, Krillin can't really breathe in space, so Krillin begins to choke on his own blood. Krillin dies in space, having to float out in the middle of nowhere, and Cell is standing right above the atmosphere and saying, "That was amazing. I just have one thing left, the entire Earth to massacre." So he uses instant transmission, he goes back onto the Earth, and that's when he opens up his tail, and Cell says, "I'm not going to keep the fun all to myself. myself, and he gives birth to a bunch more Cell Juniors, in which we see the narrator say, our poor Earth then became Cell and his children's playground, and this Earth was only the first on a long list. As for Trunks, he would never come back home. His universe was universe number 14. So with that, we come to an understanding as to how powerful Cell is in this actual tournament setting, as it does explain more or less how he conquered all the Saiyans, how he conquered all of Earth, and how he moved on into bigger and better things, which he is striving to achieve in this tournament as well. But we move on to Dragon Ball Multiverse manga chapter number 17, as we see Vegeta talking to Gohan and saying, when will this round be over? I'd like to get my next fight already, with Gohan having to say, it's far from being finished, Vegeta. Vegeta having to say, it's too damn long. It feels like I've been standing here for 2 years. And then we see the announcement that Ten Shinhan from universe number 9 is gonna battle Sun Wukong from universe number 2, and we see how Wukong says, at last, the greatest hero of them all gets to fight. And we see how Ten Shinhan enters the ring, with this character having to say, well then, are you afraid to attack me? And this guy actually looks like some sort of monkey boy, which is kind of funny because he's picking his ears. And then from there, he pulls out a giant power pole, and that's when Ten Shinhan says, you must touch the ring so the match can begin. So Wukong touches down and he says, the fight can now be, and then all of a sudden this massive attack like just grazes right by him, and that's when Ten Shinhan says, good reflexes. And we see on the birdie's point of view that half the entire planet was destroyed based on the Tri-Beam attack. And that's when Trunks says he destroyed a planet, with Vegeta having to say, course not, idiot. These are just gaseous sceneries in the sky. And even if it was a real planet, that wouldn't be impressive, even for that tall bald guy. Pretty much just roasting Tien. And as Wukong touches back down, we see how he says, my strength can exceed anything that you can possibly imagine. And he begins to rip out some hairs from his scalp, and he begins to blow onto them as he creates copies. So he creates copies of himself based on all the hairs he just ripped out, and then from there we see Tien use the after image technique. And once Tien uses the after image technique, Tien goes on the offensive and he beats down each individual copy that Wukong can produce, and giving them punches and kicks and elbows. So this was a really simple fight, and it looks like based on the way the story was written, this is more or less a joke-like character, because he didn't really have nothing to offer Tien in this battle, because by the end of it, we see how the tournament holders say Ten Shinhan from universe number 9 is declared the winner of the match, with Wukong having to say, no, wait, I was just developing strategies, with Tien having to say, don't try and bend the rules, you'd regret it. So right then and there, the fight is over. I was a little disappointed by this, because I was hoping for this to be a back and forth kind of struggle, but then the tournament holders say the next match is Zangia from universe number 6 against Sun Bra from universe number 16, and in which Bra says, Zangia, that's Bojack's girlfriend, with Goten having to say, ha, she asked to change her name on registration, I'm also her brother, don't forget it. And we also see how Bra says, you're gonna suffer, because keep in mind, we saw how prior to this, they managed to kill Pan. And that's when Vegito says, Bra, wait, we need 2 minutes, and Vegito takes Bra out back, and he says, let's get some privacy, enter and sit down. And they both sit down, and Vegito says, I forbid you to hurt the Zangia and or to kill her. You're going to crush her in one strike without unnecessary violence. And Bra begins to get very angry and saying, what? But she's Bojack's girlfriend. It's the perfect occasion to, and that's when Vegito cuts her off and saying, to train your resistance to anger. You got carried away once again in space, and that's when Bra says, yeah, but I saved your life, and Vegito having to say, yeah, and I thank you for that. You were awesome up there, but it's still the proof of your greatest weakness. You can use your full power without destroying everything around you. You also need to control yourself, do the best that you can, and I will not unsubscribe you from the tournament. Repress your anger and it's over. So Vegito is telling her, don't do anything crazy because you will regret it if you battle her at full power, because if you kill her, it's gonna be on you. So we see how Zangia says, I said I was giving up, with Bojack having to say, there are no cowards in Bojack's gang, none that are alive anyway. So we see her touch down and says, well, at least I'm here against the kid. And that's when Bra says, let's do it. So right now, we see how Bra is under like this strain of anger, because as we see Bra's face, she's very angry, and Vegito having to say, uh-oh, bad start, because the way we see Zangia approach her, she says, hey, I thought you'd run away. Ready to finish you like I did your little friend? So right there, we see how Bra powers up. She erupts in a massive amount of rage, and that's when Bra says, worthless trash. And as she powers up, even Goku says in incredible. She's stronger than us too, with Goku having to confirm that Bra is even stronger than they are in their universe. So we see how Bra powers up. She actually unleashes this massive energy-like attack that goes through the ring, and in which she goes to attempt to punch Zangia, in which she does, and she hits her so hard that she rings her out. And in that process, we see how the tournament holders walk on by and saying, how many seconds has it been? With the Namekian having to say, no need to count, she is dead. So Bra did exactly what Vegito said not to do, and that's when Bra says, I did what I could, with someone having to say, I know. And that's when Vegito walks by and says, I know you didn't want to kill her, you passed, you did control yourself, but although your strength was too much, you still killed her anyway. And that's when Bojack says, hey, there's no morgue here, put this useless meat bag somewhere else. And in which he doesn't even care about his own people, in which we go back to Braun and she says, and he doesn't even care about his own girl. And that's when Gohan says, I don't think they are together, in our universe he killed her himself just to distract me. And that's when Bra says, and now is it when you tell me that? With the tournament holders having to say the next match is going to be Ellen from universe number 19 versus Android 16 from universe number 12. And that's when Trunks says, you don't give up, with 16 having to say it's also giving respect to the opponent. And we see how they both entered the ring, with the tournament competitor against 16 having to say no sign of life detected, not even a red blood cell, no need to go easy on it. Ultra waiver ball, and he shoots it at 16, and 16 changes his facial expression by saying, if that touches me, then I'm going to be dead. And we see how he quickly jumps up and saying, when you duck, you'll be more open to my next shot, and 16 having to remove his hands and he fires back. And that's when the competitor says, huh? He won't duck, and 16 makes the move to go on ahead and bring him down. So this match, I would say, is like a battle of like the machines, because we see how 16 is holding his own relatively enough, but it also looks like they're exchanging blows back and forth, because by the end of this manga chapter, we see how 16 says his armor makes him that much more resistant as a cyborg, but his strikes and his superhuman speed, he owes them to his boosted and trained body. So during this match, it looks like 16 is actually in trouble as they're going back and forth, and they're having an intense battle because this other person seems to be that of a cyborg, and we see how he plummets and he pushes 16 into the ground, with 16 having to say the gravity is increasing dramatically because the cyborg is standing on top of him. And that's when he says, my anti-G make me float, but he can also make me increase the weight of anything I touch. You are now my prisoner, with 16 having to say damn it. And that's when he finally says, my ultra waiver will melt the machine that you are. And that's when 16 says, I'm sorry Trunks, I hope that the Dragon Balls will have compassion for a robot like me. And that's when Trunks in the distance says, no, give up, it's not worth it. And that's when the other cyborg machine is even saying, why do I hesitate in finishing him off? He's only a robot. And that's when Piccolo says, he spoke of the Dragon Balls. He must know that in our time, they didn't resurrect him. He's gonna give up. And that's when 16's competitors say it robots, say you give up or else I'll destroy you, with 16 having to say sorry, goodbye Trunks, I was happy to be your friend. And that's when he says, you have a friend, but if having our wish means to shoot a man who is down, I will do it. With 16 having to say, there it is. I am a man in your eyes now, and not just a heartless being. You combine compassion and duty. I'm not worried, anymore at least. Your universe is in good hands, I give up. And that's when the competitor says, you risked your life for this, with the announcers having to say the victory is to Ellen from universe number 19, and we see how right then and there he goes back, and that's when the competitor walks over to Goku and says, so, isn't it a great victory or what? With Goku having to say, yeah, it was, congratulations. Of course, number 16 is quite weak, and that's when finally the tournament holders say the next match is from King Cold from universe number 8 versus Videl from universe number 9. And that's when Gohan says, what? Videl? But you? And that's when Videl says, hey, who are you oogling like that? And we see King Cold step forward against Videl, who has a sword, and that's when the manga chapter pretty much cuts off. So overall, this was a decent manga chapter. There wasn't anything too intense having to be shown other than 16's resistance, which I thought was relatively good because even then, he was fighting to protect his world, and even then when he realized that he was beat, 16 still maintained his composure in admitting that he lost and trying to favor someone else. And even Trunks at that point says no, just give up, because he didn't want to see his friend die. So this was a relatively decent manga chapter, especially having to see Vegito talk to Bra about having to sustain her composure, because overall Bra wants to destroy Eradicate and kill Bojack for Bojack having to kill Pan, so that's one of the reasons why she was so angry. But post your comments down below, guys. What are your overall thoughts on this manga chapter? Did you guys enjoy the chapters? Did you guys hate the chapters? What are your overall thoughts on Bra having to kill Bojack's once girlfriend? Post your comments down below, guys. Thank you all for watching. If you guys are fans, don't forget to subscribe for more news, information, updates, and reviews. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to go ahead and slap a like down below. Tune back in for more, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next Dragon Ball Multiverse chapter review. Take it easy, guys. Peace.